Hey everybody, we're right back at it. This time, we're breaking down college football, Big Ten
So
conference.
join us on the Boss and the Sauce show right now. Oh yeah, we're right back at it. The Boss and the Sauce show. I'm DJ BigBoss, and I got the sauce in the building right now. I got my man BigRagoo. How you feeling today, BigRagoo?
I'm feeling great, DJ. Can't wait to break these games down with you. We're doing the Big Ten, like you said, and we're going to knock the shoes right off the socks.
Well, you heard it here first on the Boss and the Sauce show. We ain't going to waste your time. We're going to jump right on into it. Now, let's go. Indiana Hoosier here. This is going to be an interesting team right here. Now, this is the third-year coach, Tom Allen, who gets a ton of players back this year. He's getting 7 on offense. He's getting 9 on defense. And also, he's turning over his defensive play calling abilities to his coaching staff. So he's going to be available for the players a little bit more. Now, he's coming off a 5-7 year last year, in which they were averaging 26.4 points a game, which they're going to obviously get up this year with the experienced offense. Now, as far as the defense is stacked. They're coming back on defense with returners at the defensive end position, also at the linebacker position, and at the cornerback spots. So this team should be locked down this year, and they should improve a little better than 5-7. What you think about that, BigRagoo?
A lot of interesting looks, big man. Quarterback-wise, Peyton Ramsey, he was the leading stats guy in the Big Ten last year. They racked up some yardage on offense. They got talent in the skill positions, like you say. The defense is like Swiss cheese last year. They were dead last in passing on defense, and I think they were like 12 against the run out of 14. But anyways, they definitely have the leadership coming back. So, and now they're going to, like you said, I believe the defensive coordinator. They got co-defensive coordinators to try to shore up that defense a little bit. So I'm looking for better things out of the squad on the defensive side, and hopefully they can score some more points because they do have the weapons on offense.
Well, I must say, BigRagoo, I'm optimistic of this squad right here, but I got to keep it real. They got to see Ohio State, Michigan State, Nebraska, Penn State, and Michigan, and those are just the big games. They still have a suspect at Maryland game. They also have a suspect at Purdue game. They may easily pass maybe UConn and Eastern Illinois, maybe Ball State, but still going to be a rocky road for this team. Although a lot of returners, this is the third year for the coach. I call them for 6 wins. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know about 6. Maybe 5. Could be 6. 6 with a little bit of luck. Their first 4 games, they got Ball State, which will probably win that game if they play up to standard. Eastern Illinois. Then they go to play at home at Ohio State, which that's going to be an L. Then they play Connecticut the following week. So they could very well be easily a good 3-1, but then it gets rocky road from there all the way out. Then they get in conference. Last year they were 2-7 in conference. Or no, they're predicted to be 2-7 in conference this year. So probably very similar along the same lines as last year is what I'm thinking as far as their schedule goes. I think they'll be on par with last year.
Well, I'm going to keep hope alive, but that's it right here for the Indiana Hoosiers. Let's get into the next team. Next up, Maryland Terrapins. I can't really say the name right, but I'm going to just call them Terrapins. But let's take a look at Maryland. Now, Maryland has first-year coach Mike Locksley, who inherits a lot of adversity on this one. With only 5 coming back on offense, 5 coming on defense, Maryland will rely on the running game and last year's returner, 1,000-yard rusher, Anthony McFarland. Now, the defense is a crapshoot. Only 5 returning, but a few transfers will fill some gaps for them. Now, the aftermath of the tragic death of offensive lineman Jordan McNair may still be lingering in the air for this squad. But top newcomer, linebacker Keandre Jones, he moves across the Big Ten divisions, coming from Ohio State to fill a big hole at linebacker over in this defense. So they could be looking up at a season this year. But like I said, things might not be all the way together over there at Maryland right now. Only time will tell. Now let's turn this over to the sauce. What you think about that, BigRagoo?
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened to this team last year. You know, with the death of the lineman and the dismissal of head coach DJ Durkin and the coach that's sitting in the seat now. You know, was the interim coach. They gave him the job permanently. So I mean, at least he has that kind of camaraderie with the team. So hopefully, you know, they can get some stuff worked out. And at the same time, this team offensively, not a bad squad. McFarland, like you said, 1,000-yard rusher. I think they're going to lean on him heavily as a true sophomore this year. And they get decent yardage on the run game. A weak area for them. It's kind of like a catch-22. They've got some really bad defensive backs. They're like dead last on the passing side against the pass. But a bright spot for them is a turnover margin. They were able to create some turnovers last year. I think they wind up almost plus 10 on turnovers, which kind of put them in 15 ranked nationally on turnover on the defensive side. But they did finish up. They did finish up 5-7 last year, and 3-6 in the Big Ten. So you know they've got their work cut out for them. Their schedule, you know, we'll go over that. But there's a lot to build on. They got a lot of stuff going on in the locker room that they're going to have to straighten out. And I think over time this team will heal and get better.
Now, to add insult to injury, they draw a tough schedule this year. They do open against Howard, but then they got to see Syracuse. They go to Temple. Then they got to see Penn State. Then they get a little break with Rutgers, Purdue, Indiana, who still could cause some trouble to them, and at Minnesota. But these last four is pretty tough. Michigan, Ohio State, Nebraska, and Michigan State going down the stretch when they're really going to need the wins right here. The best I could do with this team this year, BigRagoo, is another 5-7 season. Where you got them at?
Yeah, I got them right there too. Pegged at right about 5-7, 4-8. You know, 5-7 is going to be tops for me.
There it is right there. Boss and the Sauce Show. We're going to keep it moving for y'all. Next team, let's go. Dun, 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 dun. Boss and the Sauce Show. I'm DJ BigBoss. I'm right back at you right here. And we about to break down Michigan Wolverines. Now, this is the talk of the town right here on Michigan Wolverines in the Big Ten. But here's my breakdown. Now, Harbaugh set up for success in his fifth year right here. He has experience at the quarterback position. He also has a solid O-line. And the offensive coordinator that he has in there now is pushing for a fast-paced, up-tempo offense. Now, on the defense on the other end, it's very workable. They got key players coming back at D-line, linebacker, and in the secondary. And should be no big job to continue to only give up an average of 19.4 yards per game. Now, Michigan also has a nice schedule this year, but here's what I say. They will not beat all three of the big three they have to play, which is Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Ohio State. They will, even though everybody's pushing for Michigan to beat Ohio State this year, they will fall to one of these three teams. I don't know which one. I'm going to let the Sauce talk about it.
Hey, all right. So Michigan's on the hot seat last year with the coach as far as making that big win over Ohio State. That's his nemesis. I got 3 words for Michigan: beat Ohio State. That's all you have to do, and then everybody be happy up in the big house. But like you said, on offense, they bring in Josh Gaddis, who's he's going to run the hurry up spread offense, which I think all they're going to do is they're going to run a no huddles from what I've been reading an article. So that's going to give them a whole new look. And I'm going to see how Harbaugh reacts to that. But evidently he's on board with it. And quarterback Shea Patterson is the number 1 rated quarterback in the Big Ten. That's a fact for sure. And his main guy, Nico Collins, as a wide receiver, he had a breakout season last year as a sophomore. He's probably going to be his main weapon. On defense, like you said, they're stacked up. They're ranked top 1, 2 across the board. They do have the big 3, like you say. And like you say, every year they finish up with Ohio State. I see a pretty good go at the schedule for them. They're going to play in a lot of tough games. They're going to win a lot of games. And I think they're going to go a long way.
There it is there, y'all. Y'all heard it from the sauce himself. But to go ahead and comment further on Michigan, Michigan was 10-3 last year, and their three losses was to Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Florida in the bowl game. This year, they draw a much better competition. They have to play Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, and also underrated, I believe, Wisconsin team right here. So 10-3, absolutely they'll be able to get that again. But if they're going to go 11 or 12 wins this year, it's going to have to be through Ohio State, like my man BigRagoo said. But I don't know. I had a talk with my alumni guy at UCLA, and he said a 10-2 season is fine by all academic and athletic director standards there at UCLA. Not every team in the college football is trying to win a national championship each year. What's your final thoughts on Michigan, BigRagoo?
Yeah, well, Michigan, like I said, Michigan's main objective is to get to Ohio State in a good spot so they can win the East and play for that Big Ten championship and be playing in the big game, the big college football playoffs at the end of the year. That's their ultimate goal. But I think they got a lot of nice looks, a solid team, and I look for some more W's for this team coming up real soon.
Even if they beat Ohio State, BigRagoo, do you still feel they got big hopes at being in that Final Four?
If they beat Ohio State, I would say yes. They would have an out. They'd be not a bubble team, but they'll be right there. They'll be knocking on door. Let's talk about that for 1 second. Now that we're talking about Ohio State, Michigan. Now the Big Ten hasn't been represented in the college football playoffs since 2015. Okay, and the last two times they played, they got goose egg, 38-0 by Alabama and 31-0 by Clemson. So they've always been on the outside looking in. So I think there's a lot of motivation for both squads. We're going to talk about Ohio State later on, but for the conference as a whole, they've struggled these past few years, and I think this will get them back on the national level as far as college football is concerned in the playoffs.
Well, it's always tough for the Big Ten because they usually beat up on each other, and the small schools that beat the big schools, so
True.
forth and so on. So even if they do beat Ohio State, and let's say they come in at 9-2 or something like that, with the college schedule, and Clemson's almost a clear undefeated team, and Alabama right behind them, it's going to be difficult with anything more than one loss for Michigan to end up in that four. So I don't know. I'm not an ex. I'm a 49er fan in football, and I love Harbaugh, and I wish him the best, but I don't know if college football coaching was cut out for him. Any final words, BigRagoo?
Now we're going to see what they can do come their first game, which is August 31st against Middle Tennessee State.
There it is there. You heard it right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show. I'm out of here. Sparta! Yes, sir. Right here on Michigan State. Nothing but good things to say about Michigan State. Senior-led offense, senior-led defensive line, senior quarterback. They're bringing back 8 on offense, 8 on defense, and a few other players coming off a 7-6 season. Michigan State must raise their average of 342 yards per game. The offense must figure out how to stay on the field and sometimes even score to keep that defense off the field and rested. They always have a solid defense. They have some solid players to go along with it, but the offense can't move the ball long enough for them to catch a breather. They're going to be right back to where they started. Now, on defense, they do return 8 on defense. They were excellent against the run last year, but they must pay more attention to the pass this year. So I have a lot of optimism for Michigan State this year. I feel that a lot of times they're just their own worst enemies. They've had good teams before, and they're going to continue to recruit well and have good teams. Is this the team that's going to take them over the top? Let's talk to my man BigRagoo about that. BigRagoo.
Yeah, DJ, you hit a lot of key points on the talent on this team. They've got the talent. They've got the players, there's no question, but they shoot themselves in the foot year in, year out. Defensive side of the ball is their strength, no doubt about that. On the offensive side, quarterback Brian Lewerke, he's a senior quarterback. He's a pretty solid player. He's a leader of the team, but their issue is, keeping drives going and sustaining, and keeping the ball out of the other team's hands, trying to keep their defense off the field. Like you said, that's a bad look for these guys. Speaking of the defense, they had former walk-on Kenny Wilkes. He led the country in rushing the sacks last year with 23 quarterback hits, 23. So he's a defensive end. He's probably a prospect draft pick the upcoming year. But if this team doesn't figure out how to finish drives off and score points, they're going to get a lot more of the same that they had last year. Now, they are a pretty good program. They always field a winning squad. That's without question. Mark D'Antoni always puts a good, solid product on the field. He's a well-coached, very knowledgeable coach, coaches his kids up. But, they just seem like they can't get over the hump. Like you said, they just keep shooting themselves in the foot. So we'll see what they do on the field this year. They got the tough schedule that they always play, on the east side of the Big Ten, and we'll see how they wind up come the end of the season.
Well, coming off of 7-6 last year, some of those games were some tight games. They do say defense wins game, but like I said before, not if the offense can't keep the defense off the field. Look, they lost to Oregon in the bowl game 6-7. They lost to Nebraska 6-9. Just defensive played excellent in those games. Just not enough offense to make a difference. They kind of remind me of your drunk uncle that used to be like a top athlete or something, and he was always his best role model. But as he got older, he just stumbles over his own foots, and that's what Michigan State's been doing for a while right here. But 7-6, they got to do better than that. But out of the 4 big games they play, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State, I only see them winning 2 of those 4. And I see at best a 9-3 season for Sparta. What you think? Any last words, BigRagoo?
Yeah, I'm looking like about 8-4 overall season for these guys. The out of conference game, they start out with Tulsa week 1. Then they play Western Michigan, and then these are all at home too, by the way. Then they take on Arizona State, where Arizona State is an up-and-coming program coached by Herm Edwards, so that might be an L for them there. And then they got to travel on the road to Northwestern, so they could very well be 2-2 or 3-1 or maybe 1-3, depending on how they play.
Did we got a lineup on that Tulsa game yet?
The Tulsa game, let's see. That's an interesting question. They're playing, what day did I say they're playing? The 30th? Yeah, August 30th. They're playing Tulsa. Right now, they're 21.5-point favorite at home, Michigan State.
That's going to be a tough one right there. Now, we have took a look at Tulsa. Tulsa has a live returning. They may be fired up. I think I might side with that plus 21 on that one, BigRagoo. But we'll talk more about first game matchups at the end of the program here. But this is the Boss and the Sauce Show, and we just brought you Michigan State. Now let's get to the next team.
The Ohio State University, as they say in Columbus, at the Horseshoe. We got Ohio State Buckeyes coming on board next. Now let's talk about the coach, Ryan Day. Ryan Day inherits the program from Urban Meyer. Now, last year, he was the interim coach for 3 games after the turmoil with Urban. He kind of corralled the troops in the locker room, put them back on the field, and realistically, they didn't miss a beat for what they had to work with. And the thing that they did lose, though, is they lost Haskins at quarterback, right? And they did lose Nick Bosa and Tremont Jones on the defensive side. But Ohio State University, that's a recruiting machine. They had the number 1 ranked defense in the country last year as far as efficiency goes. And turnover margin, they lacked a little bit there. But they're going to kind of run the same style of offense that they have in the past. They have quarterback Justin Fields. Okay, now the kid Justin Fields, he is a sophomore. He's a Georgia kid that was a transfer. He was a top 5 prospect in 2018. That's a solid look for them there. And this guy knows how to coach offense because he was the offensive coordinator. So I'm expecting solid defense from Ohio State. I'm expecting good things on offense. And even though a lot of the guys, the analysts, they're real high on Michigan, you know what I say? To beat the man, you got to be the man to beat the man. So I like Ohio State a lot. I think they're going to put a good product on the field. And until somebody knocks them out of that spot, I'm going to roll with Ohio State.
There it is. You heard it right there from the sauce. Now time to hear it from the boss on this Ohio State team. Now, Ohio State's got this big roar around the league for their success over in the Big Ten, setting up the Michigan-Ohio State game. But when I look at the Ohio State team, I see points of interest where they can be taken advantage of. First off, Coach Ryan Day, he got his work cut out for him. He's returning only 4 on offense, but he gets 7 on defense. Now, filling Urban Meyer's shoes is going to be tough. Now, a lot of coaches do latch on first year after a big coach like Urban Meyer's leave and do well that first year, but then they may have a downward slope. But this, you're talking years and years and years of this guy coming in here. Now, granted, the school is backing them, the alumni, everybody's backing them, but of course, they're a big school. When they went through the whole scandal, they didn't let Urban Meyer look bad. They're not going to let this guy look bad. But his work is cut out for him, and it starts at quarterback, one of the most crucial parts on the field, which Urban Meyer didn't always have his hand on the quarterback situation. He had dual quarterbacks. He had the breed quarterback. He's always been a little touchier in the quarterback area. Now, this guy's going to come and have to fill the shoes of that. Now, the defense, who gave up 25.8 per game last year, should be okay with the 7 retarders that they haven't. But they will have to trim some fat from the points that they gave up last year if they're going to compete on a major level and make it to the playoffs this year. Now, I have Ohio State losing 2 games in 2019. So that's my take on it. Any further looks on that, BigRagoo?
Yeah, on Mr. Day, the coach. What I do like about him, right off the get-go, there's no 2 quarterback system with him. He just made the commitment to Fields, the transfer, plugged him right in the system, ready to go. So I like that a lot. And defensively speaking, like I say, the team recruits solidly. Linebackers galore, linemen galore. So I think I'm really high on this team. So we'll see, though. Like I said before, we talked about how the Big Ten's not represented in the championship game in a long, long time. This could be maybe a little early for this coach, possibly, but I think he's got a good shot to get
Well,
there.
I think if he's as good as they saying he's going to be, then he may just do it here with this team right here. He got it set up just like Clemson this year. He got 3 major games he looking at: Michigan State, Penn State, and Michigan. Although all the other teams in the Big Ten, they are going to have their radars pointed at them. But opening up against FAU, Cincinnati, Indiana, Miami, Ohio, Nebraska. The jury's still out on Nebraska, although a lot of people in analytics are high on Nebraska. Jury's still out on Nebraska, and then Michigan State. So, the way the schedule set up right here, they were 13-1 last year. They bring in Ryan Day. He more or less has to get a quarterback and manage the team more than anything. And he could do it. But if he falls at this one, he's going to fall by 1 or 2 games. So that's my take on Ohio State. Any last words?
Yeah, I mean, a first-year coach can make those mistakes. They can make those maybe not the key decision at the right moment, which they've been known to do. So that's the only thing that could maybe get in his way, possibly making a bad decision or 2 somewhere down the line that might cost him a game here or a game there. But there's that, as far as athletes go, 4 or 5-star recruits, they got them all. So we'll see when they open up their first game against Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, nobody's going to forget that last year they lost their one game to Purdue. So, going to be a good look, some good times watching Ohio State. I back you on wishing them good success. Although, I'm a Notre Dame fan. I don't really like Ohio State like that. But it's all good, man. But y'all heard it first right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show. This is Ohio State on the Big Ten College Football Preview. Let's get to the next team. Let's go. We going to Penn State. Nittany Lions. Now let's talk about this team right there. Now Penn State is in a wonderful spot right here. They're ranked just below the top 25, which is good for a lot of teams. If you really think about it on a big level, whenever they come out ranked, the last 10 teams usually either go far down or far up. So rank 26 keeps the media out your face, gives you time to focus on your team, and gives you a little time in the season to move up to one of those top spots. Now, the question will still remain at quarterback with Penn State, but they do return a good O-line. Now, the defense returns seniors at defensive line, linebacker, and secondary, which should keep the defense solid. Now, Penn State draws a decent schedule, but will need to win 4 out of 5 road games to come away with a decent season right here. Well, BigRagoo, what you think about this Penn State team?
Penn State is coached by James. Remember when he came on the scene a few years ago, nobody knew who this Poindexter-looking guy was going to be. And in his very first year is pretty successful with a lot of great players that he turned out to the draft. Now, Penn State used to be known as linebacker U for a long, long time, and they still are a pretty solid squad. They make some noise in the division every year. They're just a tad below Ohio State and Michigan. They did lose Trace McSorley, that their senior quarterback, like you said. Nationally speaking, on the offensive side of the ball, they're ranked like 13th on defense. Excuse me, they're ranked 15th on defense and 38th on offense. And then on turnover margin, they're ranked 114th. So they're really not getting the job done on turnovers. But they do play solid football in the conference. They're ranked like 3rd in the conference on defense and like 4th on offense. So they're kind of like not a middle of the road team, just above average, but just below really, really good. So they got, like you said, in a low pressure spot. They're ranked like below the top 25. So this team could be a quiet team, gel as a team and make some noise in the conference and get some key W's. And maybe, crack that top 25 after the 3rd or 4th week.
Now, coming in off a 9-4 season, which they lost to Ohio State, Michigan State, at Michigan, and Kentucky in the bowl game, that's not bad. You can't win them all. If you're going to lose to the top competition. But this year, like I said, 5 road games, let's count them out. At Maryland, at Iowa, at Michigan State, at Minnesota, and also at Ohio State, which they're going to have to win at least 4 or 5 out of those and do well at home in order to come back with more than 9 wins for the season. This team right here is a must-watch team. I got them down for 9 wins for 2019. Any last words on Penn State, BigRagoo?
Yeah, I mean, the way these teams set their schedules up, and most of them do the same thing. Early in the season, they schedule their first 2 cupcakes. Some teams not so much, but most teams do. And usually they'll schedule 3 games out of conference, and they try to schedule them as W's to kind of get themselves tuned up. But I'm looking at Penn State, and overall probably as a 9-3 or maybe an 8-4 team if they get tripped up somewhere along the line. And of course, with 3 out of conference wins, you got Idaho, Buffalo, and then they got to play. They play Rutgers late in the year, which Rutgers is a doormat basically. But that's about it. So those three games right there, I see easy W's for Penn State.
Well, there it is right there. Penn State, I got 9 wins. BigRagoo got 9 wins. 9 wins it is. Penn State 2019 preview right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show, and we out of here. What up, though? Right back at you with this Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They should be the Rutgers Scarlet Letter. as bad as they played last year. This is a 1-11 team right here. This year, they get 5 back on offense, 5 back on defense. Now, fourth-year head coach Chris Ash, his seat got to be getting a little hot right now. The offense returns a quarterback, running back, and wide receiver trio, but these players are so bad, they should be getting refunds, not returners, okay? Now, the defense may show improvement this year, but the offense has to move the ball to do any better than 1-11. Now, the Rutgers' best chance at a 3-win season is going to start at UMass and they should beat Liberty, and then they're hoping for one extra upset. Not much to say about this team that was 1-11 from last year, but they got a few decent restarters. But if they couldn't do the job last year, what makes you think they're going to do the job this year? BigRagoo, put some sauce on this situation.
I need to put some water and put the fire out because this guy's going to be burning up the coach. Chris Ash, right? A-S-H. He's got the perfect name for his coach because somebody lit a fire under his ass because he's going to be gone if he has another team like this. Ever since he's been there, the team, offensively has been ranked 130th. How many teams in the FBS? 130. So they're dead last in offense. They're dead last in passing efficiency. I don't have to crunch the numbers for you. The team is, I feel bad for the team. I really do because you know what? They go out, they try, and they don't have any success. Last year, they were 0-9 in the conference, 1-11 overall, 0-9 in the Big Ten. And I don't see anything bright on the horizon for this team. The only bright spot that I see is the defensive backs. They've got some pretty decent play there. They're ranked like in the 50s, somewhere in that range. But every other defensive position, they're well in the 110 to 130 range. So not a lot to look at here. And I got a feeling that this might be Chris Ash's last year as head coach of the Scarlet Knights.
Now, if it ain't one thing that I hate in sports is when the coach gives up on the team. That's like the worst thing last year. I remember last year I predicted the Spartans over there in San Jose to beat San Diego State. They were a 15-point underdog, and they did so because I read in the media that the coach was giving up on the young players. He said the players went 6-0. They were young. He was waiting for those guys to lack up. They should have been lost by now. And sure enough, they took a loss. Now, this coach right here, I'm going to quote this coach right here, Coach Ash. He says, I really like the culture we have right now. But to say we are better as a team right now, I'm going to have to hold off making any predictions or judgments until we actually play games. Baloney! The coach don't believe in it. The players ain't going to believe in it. The fans ain't going to believe in it. So I'm definitely looking for fade on this team right here. Any last words on these?
Yeah, I got to say something upon what you were just talking about, and this is a quote also. The athletic director, Pat Hobbs, felt compelled to issue a vote of confidence to Ash and giving him a $9.8 million contract through 2022. One thing is clear, though. Ash will be under intense scrutiny from a disappointing fan base. So you better believe the lynch mob is going to be in full effect if this team doesn't put some W's on the board this season.
Well, that's hard to say, BigRagoo, because being that they gave him all that money, that would say somebody in the alumni will have to buy this guy out. If the fans and the alumni is not interested in the game, nobody's going to be interested in buying the guy out the contract to get a better coach. They might as well say, keep the coach, put the money over on the basketball team. But we're not going to stink up the Boss and the Sauce show, talk about the Rutgers, unless we fading them to make some money. So we're going to keep it moving off to the next squad. Let's go. Yay! Yes, we have come to the end of our review of the Big Ten College Football 2019 preview right here on the Boss and the Sauce show. That was great. How you feeling there, BigRagoo?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready to get down on some of these games. Let's You want to look at a couple games?
Yeah, let's look at a couple games. But before we go to looking at a couple games, let's go ahead and finish off the information on this conference. Let's give them our top 3 from each side. I'll go first. I'm looking at the Big Ten on the east side. I'm going to go ahead and go with the public. I'm taking Michigan first. I'm putting Michigan State second. And I'm going to have Ohio State third on that side. What you got? What you got on the east side?
Yeah, I like the same 3 teams, but not in that order. I'm surprised you picked Michigan State. Thought I was going to be the sleeper to pick Michigan State to jump the ladder a little bit, but I like the Ohio State University to clean that division up, as I think that school just owns Harbaugh. So we're gonna kick our boy your San Francisco friend out to the side a little bit. We're gonna put Ohio State number 1, and then I'm gonna take Michigan. I'm gonna flip them down number 2 because I think it's gonna come down to that last game of the season. And I'm gonna go with Sparty for number 3. I'm gonna take Penn State and drop them down a notch because I think they got too many issues to do, and I think Michigan State's going to overachieve or done underachieving. It's time to get on par with their program. I'd like Michigan State to step it up a little bit this year.
I definitely like what you're talking about over there. I like that setup, but I'm just not as high on Ohio State. I'm not sold on it 100% yet. Urban Meyer is a legend over there. The shoes to fill is huge. And definitely like Michigan State this year in that conference. I had to pick somebody to finish a little higher than they supposed to, and it definitely should be Michigan State. And like you said, Michigan, I'm kind of leaning towards Harbaugh not beating Ohio State again as well. As a matter of fact, like I said earlier, I'm kind of leaning towards Harbaugh not really being cut out to be a top-tier college coach. But he's getting the money. But so let's move over to the West right here. Now the West is kind of wide open, makes it very difficult to pull out my top 3. I'm really down on Nebraska. I don't really believe in Nebraska like they say Nebraska is going, but the schedule at Nebraska is gonna have to make me pull Nebraska in at number 2. I can't give them number 1. I definitely don't like what my man Phil Steele got right here. He got Iowa in the number 2 position. I don't like Iowa in the number 2 position. I'm more optimistic on Minnesota. Minnesota has everything, all the gears are together, and they're going to be cranking. It's going to be some uphill spots, some downhill spots. So I like Minnesota to come in the number 2 position. So I guess I had to say that, to make that from number 2 to number 1, and I'm going to go a tie with Minnesota and Nebraska for the number 1 spot. And my number 3 team is Wisconsin. I expect Wisconsin to get the wheels back kicking. They got an awesome running back over there who may be a Heisman Trophy candidate. I don't know why they in the 3 spot, but I'm kind of like the public too. I can't really put them in the number 1 spot because last year they haven't earned the number 1 spot yet, and they never will earn the number 1 spot at the beginning of the season because they run a simple offense, a simple defense. They play with a lot of tradition. So, what's your take over there in the West, BigRagoo?
Yeah, the West has got a lot of parity, a lot of similarities, and a lot of teams, a little different, quirky stuff, going on in each individual team as far as, who's a little light on defense, who's a little light on offense, different holes to fill. But I'm going to be looking at, for the number 3 team, I'm going to be looking at a surprise team. I'm taking the Purdue Boilermakers to climb the charts, slide up to number 3. Yeah, I'm gonna have them number 3. I'm gonna take the Wisconsin Badgers to be number 2, and I'm taking the Iowa Hawkeyes to make that jump. I think this is the year they break through. They got the long-term coach there. They got a lot of talent. They got the defense. The only thing they need to fill, the void they have to fill really, is the tight end slots. That could be that could slow their running game down a little bit, but they're not a high-scoring offense, but they're a methodical team. I like the way they play football. They play solid defense, and I'm a defensive type of guy. So I think Iowa could take that side of the conference. It's going to be, like I say, the way Wisconsin plays football, the way Northwestern plays football, the way Minnesota plays football. They're all kind of one and the same on the offensive side. And Nebraska, I think they still got a little ways to go yet. I'm not going to take a team that went 4-8 and jump 9-4. I don't think that's happening. They'll probably be up there too, but I'm just going to, for the upset pick, I'm taking Purdue to jump up, and I'm going to take Iowa, and then number 1 and Wisconsin number 2.
Well, I like that. I like that a lot. That's a good look. Iowa is just a team I don't have a good read on, and but they are very sneaky, especially over there in the Big 12. They've been in the conference championship plenty of times over there on good years, bad years, and some more. Just because the competition doesn't weigh equally on the East and the West in the Big 10, and we all know this. So that was excellent. I love that right there. Now let's move on to what the people been waiting for, and that's some of that good old capping. Now, I know this is just a preface to the capping that we're going to do on the Boston Sauce Show. Big things coming forward. Stay tuned. It's going to be worth your time and worth your while. But, we don't like to look too far forward. We will cap this games again. But let's take a look at some of the top matchups in week 1 over here in the Big 12. Now, BigRagoo, we got Northwestern at Stanford. The line is out right now, Stanford -6. Now, I know we haven't got a chance to go through the Pac-12 yet. Give us a lean. Just give us a lean on this one right here.
What is it, 6 you said?
6, yeah.
Northwestern at Stanford -6?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So we know, even though we haven't broke down the Stanford squad yet, we know what the type of program they have as far as the way that coach runs that team. I think they have a first-year quarterback coming out there, a new quarterback. I'm not sure. In fact, we made fun of the quarterback on the picture of one of the magazines that one game. But I'm probably going to. I know we just got through talking about the Pac or the Big 10 because it's fresh on our minds. But six on the road against a pretty good, well-coached team on the road. And I don't have that team picked as far as finishing up in the top tier of the conference. They might have a little down year. I think they overachieved. Their matrix is really high on the offensive side. So I would look at that game as probably a low-scoring game overall. And not to say that they can't play defense with Stanford, which they probably can because Northwestern is a pretty good defensive squad. I'm going to lean Stanford at home, less the touchdown. No more than a touchdown. If it goes above 7, if it goes more than 6 points, I'm off. I'll take the 6.5 plus 7. If it stays under 6, I'll take Stanford for a 2 field goal victory.
I like that. I like that look right there. I haven't capped Stanford at all. So after what I've capped on Northwestern, 6 and 7 is a nice number to put up between the two. So looking at it right now, I'm gonna have to totally agree with you that if it's under 7, I gotta go on Stanford's side. If it's anything over 7, I'm gonna take my chance week 1 with Northwestern on the road game against the Stanford team. So last one right here, top game week 1, Big 10. We got Purdue at Nevada. Now I'll take the lead with this because Nevada, that's the Mountain West where I do it the best. So Nevada home game, quarterback returning, a nice little mixed group over there, coming back to try to run it up in Nevada. Now another thing about Nevada and the Mountain West is they did pretty okay, or they do decent out of conference. Nevada, Mountain West is a conference that's on the rise a little bit, and the teams have been doing decently fair in non-conference game. Even pulled a couple upsets last year. Purdue, on the other hand, a team that I think highly of in the Big 10, but not highly enough to come in the top 3. So this is going to be a nice testament to both of the teams. And with Purdue at -9, although I think Nevada is going to struggle a little bit because all they really have is the quarterback coming back. And during conference play, teams may be able to key into them because they played them before. Might be a little more difficult for Purdue. So give me the +9 with Nevada in this one. What you got?
Yeah, right at the surface, looking at this game, I thought 9 was a little bit much for them to go on the road to take over a pretty potent, actually, offensive scheme for Nevada. I know you know the Mountain West, like you say, where you do it best, but week 1 coming out, even though I did project Purdue as one of my sleeper teams to kind of sneak up in there, to catch the top 3 positions, I'm not willing to give up 2 scores on the road week 1 on a West Coast game, too, at an early start for those kids. Even though they play 12 o'clock games on the East Coast, they're going to be playing, their clock is going to be at 9 o'clock in their brains, but they will have travel time, they will have rest, so that's not an issue right now. I'm not even worried about that because it's the first game of the season, but 9 points for me. First game out of the gate on the 2 mediocre teams, give me the plus.
It is there. You heard it right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show. We both on the same side in this first game's coming out right here. Must be the capping. Y'all hit us in the comments with your side. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Big Ten College Football 2019. It was wonderful with you, BigRagoo. We got much more to come. Everybody out there, stay tuned. Anything you want to tell the people, BigRagoo?
Yeah, listen, we appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to check us out. Every week we're going to be breaking these little shows out for you guys so we can drop knowledge on you. And I know DJ's got our follows up on the screen. Like, subscribe, and tell a friend what we got going on because it's good info. And we'll continue to bring this stuff week in, week out. And then once the season starts, we're going to be going live with this stuff too. So plenty of content coming your way.
Yeah, and we got some big things going up, coming live. All I can say right now is keep your schedule open Saturday morning from 8 to 9 o'clock for the Boss and the Sauce. We're going to come at you direct. Can't tell you from where, but when we get there, you'll be there. So that's it for us and BigRagoo. Guess what?
I'll see you at the window.
Oh, no, man. I'll see you at the window. Hey, we'll see all y'all at the window.